Now remember, in the first example I did, I said every company is going to have a unique balance sheet, and that each balance sheet will have different blends of debt and equity capital. This blend is called the company's capital structure, and it's very important because it has a big influence on the company's cost of capital. I'm going to illustrate how important capital structure is by building on my earlier example on Dangote Limited. I'm going to assume that Dangote still has $1 million in capital, and that the cost of the different capital types, equity, preference shares, and debt, stay exactly the same. All I'm simply going to change is the amount of each capital type within the $1 million limit. So let's say the capital structure of Dangote Limited changed relative to example 1, and we now had the following forms of long-term capital in the balance sheet of Dangote. There's equity of $200,000, there's preference shares equivalent to $300,000, and there's debt of $500,000. So that's a total capital base of $1 million. Firstly, we need to weight it. So again, to weight the equity, you'd simply take the total equity of $200,000 and divide it by the total capital base of $1 million. That gives you a weighting of 0.2. Similarly, for the preference shares, you take the total preference share amount of $300,000 divided by the total capital base of $1 million. That gives us a weighting of 0.3. Finally, for the debt, we take the total debt amount of $500,000 and divide that by the total capital base. That gives us a weighting of 0.5. If you add up your weightings, again, they should always add up to 1. If they don't, you've made a mistake somewhere. Now, the next step is we're going to apply those weightings to the cost of capital of each capital type. Now, again in this example, I've kept the cost of capital identical to that of example 1. So for equity, it's 25%. For preference shares, it's 16%. And for debt, it's 12%. Now, if we multiply the cost of capital of each tranche by its weighting, it's going to give us the following contributions. The equity will be 25% multiplied by the 0.2 weighting, and that's going to result in a contribution of 5%. The preference shares will be 16% multiplied by a 0.3 weighting, resulting in a contribution of 4.8%. And then the debt will be 12% multiplied by a 0.5 weighting, resulting in a contribution of 6%. If you add up all the contributions up to now, we have calculated a weighted average cost of capital for Dangote of 15.8%. What's the point I'm making here? The capital structure plays a critical role in determining the weighted average cost of capital. And the reason why most corporates actively manage their capital structure is that they realize an optimal capital structure lowers their weighted average cost of capital. And the lower the weighted average cost of capital, the more projects that a company can do, and projects which previously were not feasible can become more feasible. The key takeaway here is that the capital structure of a company has a big impact on that company's weighted average cost of capital.